Bula Vinaka, Fiji, and a warm welcome to Speak Your Mind. I'm Louise Kaunisela. From the 3rd of November 2020, the Fiji Revenue and Customs Services, is it service or services? Yeah,
Service.
okay, service, that's right. We'll be launching 4 new taxpayer online services portal. So with the advancement in technology and the initiative taken by FRCS, I would imagine payment of taxes will become much easier. And to tell us more, my guests are the Director Revenue Management, Fazrul Rahman, and the Chief Assessor Assessment, Lewai Karavaki. Welcome to the both of you to Speak Your Mind.
Hello. Thank you.
Bula Vinaka. Now, can you tell us about what the Taxpayer Online Services launching in November is about and why FRCS is moving to online and automated platform for taxpayers?
Good. Thank you. As part of the broader strategy of Fiji Revenue and Customs Service to improve its service delivery, to provide an avenue whereby taxpayers are going to deal with us in a more easier way, FRCS is embarking on a major technological reform. The advantages, of course, of the system is to ensure that we simplify the administration of taxes in Fiji. As you know, that Fiji has already introduced a number of tax reforms. And I think all these reforms had been geared towards, of course, improving revenue collection, of course, at the same time ensuring that we provide good service to customers. So simply put, we have launched a major IT project. And because the system is quite big, we have to approach it in a phased approach. As you know, that any dealing with FRCS starts with registration. Anyone who deals with FRCS has to register. Then again, it goes through the motion of return filing, assessment, lodgement. So the entire cycle continues. But we have to ensure that we simplify the entire cycle of tax administration in Fiji. So the benefits is, of course, is going to simplify. Secondly, is going to also create an environment where we operate in a more transparent approach, whereby system is going to take stock of all the dealings with taxpayers are having with FRCS and FRCS is having with taxpayers. So we could have a very good audit trail. The other advantage, of course, is to ensure that we move towards what we call voluntary compliance, whereby we're going to ensure that taxpayers have at their disposal real-time information on FRCS. They can lodge information on time, they can file documents, they can lodge returns, and ultimately they can pay taxes on time as well as we go deeper into the system. So certainly it is a major technological advancement designed to ensure that we improve our service delivery to customers.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rahman. Now, just on to our next question. How will FRCS cater for taxpayers who don't have access to internet services and therefore can't go online?
Yeah, I think the idea is to ensure that we continue status quo. As you know, that anyone who wants to deal with FRCS, they can come to FRCS, they have to fill the respective tax forms. But what we are doing together with our new IT system, we are having a number of kiosks, meaning that taxpayers can come to FRCS office if they have difficulty to lodge documents on their own, from their own business premises. So they can come to FRCS, we can put them into the system. Once they're into the system, then all the future dealings with FRCS will be done through the system, meaning that they don't have to come to FRCS office again in the future. Of course, if they do come, we're going to help and facilitate them. So whilst the designing the system, we are mindful of the fact that we are in a developing country. We need to ensure that we deal with the small businesses. And again, even the big businesses have different IT infrastructure platforms as well. So we have designed our system such that it becomes easier for people to adapt and implement from FRCS perspective. So every effort is being done on the ground to ensure that we have resources, to ensure that anyone who has or who is facing any difficulty with the system is being assisted real time.
Okay, maybe our friend Lewai, you might have something that you'd like to add on, the Chief Assessor Assessment on this.
Okay, thank you. Just to add on to what Director Revenue has mentioned, it is important to note that in the process of this implementation, we've actually got 3 portals. Namely, the 3 portals are the taxpayer portal, which we as individual taxpayers have access to. The other one is a tax agent portal, which the tax agents working on behalf of the taxpayer, and which the FRCS consider as an extension of the taxpayers to access our services. And the other one is a tax officer portal. like you mentioned, in terms of this is a transition period that we will be moving through. So at the moment, given the status quo right now, what we will continue to do, accepting the taxpayers turning up at our doors. So we'll continue to help them with that is coming from the tax officer portal. But in the process, the taxpayer feels comfortable, like the director has mentioned, we have kiosks available in all of our offices. They will be guided to the kiosks. And in the kiosk, we've got officers on standby there to lead them through the taxpayer portal.
Okay.
So in here, they're accessing the portal until they feel that they're comfortable. They know all the validation that is available in the different types of forms that we are offering, and they feel comfortable. They can go back from the comforts of their office and no longer need to travel to FRCS offices.
Yeah, that sounds good. So the kiosk will be at different locations, obviously, right across the country?
Yeah, certainly. As you can see, at the moment, we have numerous offices around the country. FRCS has offices as far as in Sabu Sabu, Lambasa. We have Singatoka, Raki Raki, all the outer locations. We do have our offices. So in those offices, we'll place kiosks, meaning that if anybody who needs FRCS service and they are finding it difficulty to log into the system themselves, so they'll just walk in and then we'll work with them. We'll ensure that they are into the system, and again, we'll give the benefits of the system to them as well.
Yes.
So they'll know that in the future dealings with FRCS, they can simply do that those services at their own comfort from the offices.
I think communication would be key. I mean, if they're having difficulties, obviously, they could just let you know and you'll direct them on what they can do, and also to keep a lookout for the kiosks.
Correct.
Right. So are you expecting, I mean, this is something new for you now, Firka. So,
Yeah, exactly. I think as you had mentioned, communication is the key. And what we're doing now at the moment is one part of that.
Right.
Because we want to ensure that we inform the general public of the benefits of the new system.
Yes.
The system is going to significantly transform the way we do business.
Yes.
And as we know that in today's day and age, technological is the driver
Yes.
of change. And so there are bigger benefits that will be accruing to the taxpayers as well as for FRCS as well, meaning that at our disposal now we can do quality risk assessment, we can do quality audits, we can do quality inspection, targeting and whatnot. From taxpayers' perspective, it's all about reducing the cost of doing business.
Yes.
It's all about improving the ease of doing business.
True.
It's also about efficiency gains. It's also about the situations where taxpayers will no longer be required to submit the documents manually.
Yeah.
It all can be logged into the system and it will be in the system. So taxpayers will also benefit through having an efficient record-keeping system by virtue of our system as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's any disadvantage at all. It's all easy, and that's a good thing. On Speak Your Mind, we'll be back soon for more on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. This is a live radio talkback show. So if you're listening in right now and you have something that you'd like to ask, you're most welcome to call 3220-906 or 77-32906. My guests, of course, are from the Fiji Revenue and Customs Service. And this is the Director, Revenue Management, Fazrul Rahman, and the Chief Assessor Assessment, Lewai Karavaki. So what are the new services to be launched in November, and how will it benefit, again, the taxpayers? I know we've spoken a lot about the benefits, but you can also go through it again.
Okay, certainly. I think in terms of the new services that will be brought into the system, I think we'll be adding 4 new services from 3rd of November. And it's very critical that we inform the general public what are these 4 services. Of course, the important one is about tax compliance certificate. So people can now simply apply for tax compliance certificate through the IT system from 3rd of November onwards. What it means is that anyone who is holding onto existing tax compliance certificate and they need renewal, etc., we are encouraging them to apply now manually so that we can process it. Or if they wish to go into the new system, that means that they have to make an application from 3rd of November onwards, meaning that any tax compliance certificate has to be applied online. Of course, the second service that will be made online is about request for clarification. As we know that in this day and age, people need to know about specifics of tax laws. And tax laws are very general, very generic. People need to know, people will have specific queries around taxation. So they can do that through electronic means from 3rd of November onwards.
Okay.
Then the other one is, of course, in terms of time to pay arrangement. Of course, as we understand, under the COVID-19 situation, there are a lot of businesses who were affected. They needed to make time with FRCS in terms of payments. And at the present time, they are doing it manually. They're coming to office, bringing documents, and to make a case.
Headache.
Now, what we're doing is from 3rd of November, it will be done through electronic means as well.
Okay.
And of course, the other one that was also mentioned was in terms of remission of penalties, which is equally another important one. As we know that under the COVID response, the national budget that we have seen, penalties are now being allowed to be waived. Of course, we have powers in the laws to have that. So what happens at the present time is people come to FRC's office, they make their business case, and then we'll look at their penalty remission on case-by-case basis. But that process is very manual. What we're doing in the system is that they can make those requests through the system as well from 3rd of November onwards.
Okay, so 3rd of November is the D-date to apply online.
Yes, that is correct. If I may just add on to
Sure.
what the director has mentioned in regards to the current tax types we already have available in our system, which the taxpayers are having the benefit of doing online. One is value-added tax or VAT, fringe benefit tax or FBT in short, service turnover tax or STT, with its associated ECAL prescribed services and the ECAL plastic bags. We also have registration that is also available online and its associated change of circumstances. When we talk about the change of circumstances, we're talking about changes to the master data of the taxpayer. And in the event there are changes in the taxpayer's address, or residential address, phone number, bank account, that can also be done online where the taxpayer can make a request through the change of circumstances request and ask us to do an update, which is automated in that process. Just in regards to the services, if I may elaborate in terms of the online services, noting that when you go online on the portal, you are distinguished with the tax office as two types of taxpayers. One is an existing taxpayer and one is a new taxpayer. When I refer to an existing taxpayer, it may be people like us who already have a tax identification number or a TIN.
Right.
A new taxpayer, one who does not have a TIN. So when you come into the portal, you'll be asked whether you're an existing taxpayer or a new taxpayer. In the event you are an existing taxpayer, the system will actually ask you for a one-time login code. And that is normally requested in our office, which you have to turn up personally to collect for a validation to be done against you as an individual, so that we're giving it to the right person and there's no identity theft involved in this process.
Okay.
So we have to ensure that we give it to the right person. So in the event you're existing taxpayer, you go through that process. But if you're a first-time taxpayer, you go through another process. So it is important that you know this. And when you go into the system in itself, if you don't have a guide, we have the guides that are available on the website. If you don't have a guide, if you look at the fields, you'll see there are asterisks or question marks against it, and the instructions are there. If you are lost, you don't know what to do, you can click on these question marks and it'll tell you, it'll advise you what is required in this particular field. If it is an asterisk, it's telling you it's a mandatory field. You need to fill that field.
Okay.
Bearing in mind our registration form, or basically all our forms are actually dynamic, in the sense that depending on the questions you answer on the original form, the questions that will follow through. So basically that we're trying to make it easier.
Yeah.
Like the director has alluded to, we're trying to make the ease of doing business. And at the same time, make it friendly when you access our portal. So you can find your way through it, and definitely it doesn't become a maze to you where you get lost in the process.
Well, that's really good. I mean, you have really made it easier. I mean, you just can't go wrong.
Exactly.
Like with the asterisks and the question mark there, I think that's really good.
Exactly. Our system is very user-friendly, and of course, we have also trained our staff as well. So what it means is that anyone that comes to our office and they may have some complicated scenarios or situations, so we are also prepared to handle that as well. So overall, it's a system that is being designed on the basis that it should be simple and easier, and it should provide a lot of information to taxpayers as well, how to use or how to apply, which button to click and what not to click, etc., etc. And it's very good. I think we already have a lot of people in the system as well. As you know, as my colleague has mentioned, that we've already gone live from last year, and we do have thousands of people who are using our services at the present time. They're applying for joint ID card. They're applying for tax number, for example. So there are a whole host of engagement that is currently happening at the present time.
Right.
And what we're doing on the against the backdrop of their success, we are adding more services. So as more and more our taxpaying community is getting more comfortable with the system, we are adding more and more modules to it.
Excellent. On Speak Your Mind, this is Gold FM, only the classic hits, your only classic hit station in the country. Be sure to tune in. We'll be back for more soon. We're back on Speak Your Mind. Gold FM, only the classic hits. I hope you're enjoying the program, especially it being informative as we have from the Fiji Revenue Customs Service, the Director Revenue Management, Fazrul Rahman, and the Chief Assessor Assessment, Lewai Karavaki. Now, tax can be an intimidating topic. I know you must be well aware of this. We know that, taxes drive development, but generally, people don't like FRCS because they think you're taking money away from them. Maybe before I actually go into this question that I want to ask, can you tell the public why? Why should they hate taxes? I mean, you must tell them why it's good to pay taxes.
Yeah, I think it's important. As we have recently celebrated our 50th anniversary as a nation, and if you look at Fiji as a whole, and if you look at ourselves, how we have evolved in the area of public services, if you look at the role that taxes have played, I think tax has been a significant factor in the national development. Tax is something that helps us to ensure that we as a society, we are able to survive without depending a lot from overseas. Generally, I think tax is something that helps in the national development. We want better roads, we want better hospitals, we want a lot of public services at our disposal, efficient services as well. And it all comes at a cost. And I think by having a very good tax policy whereby we are able to generate sufficient revenue without putting too much cost on the business community, I think it's a very good equation to be in. If you look at Fiji for now, we do have a very low rate of tax. We do have lots of tax incentives, and now we are going into simple administration. So tax is something that is there for the benefit of the general public.
Yeah, because everyone uses it, every single person. I mean, the roads and so on.
Exactly. I think it's something that is for the benefit of everyone. So I think it's all about everybody contributing to the national pie, and then we are part of that development. Because if we don't have a lot of tax revenue with us, then generally the overall tendency would be to borrow. And I think if we borrow to build our roads and infrastructure and whatnot, it will lead to sustainable issues as well. Sustainability will become an issue. So I must say that tax is a good thing. It's all about how we see it.
Yes, how we see it, exactly. I mean, look at it in a good way. Maybe, Lewai, you might like to add on to that?
Tax, a lot of people don't like talking about it. A lot of people don't want paying it. But the interesting thing about it, as an employee, we don't have any problem when it's been deducted as an employee. But the minute you step out into business, it becomes an issue when you start parting with that tax dollars.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part about it. But when you come to think of it, is that every dollar you pay actually contributes to, like the director has mentioned, to the development of the nation. And this development of infrastructure, when you look at actually, is geared towards ensuring that business can continue. So in that process, we are trying to create an environment for business to thrive. But like I mentioned, it's interesting. When it's been deducted from your pay, you don't have any issue about it.
Yeah, we don't
But the
feel
minute
it.
you stand out into a business and you're making profits
And big money.
and you've been asked to pay your tax, you become, you question it. So I think when we start changing our perspective, when we step out of employment, we see a lot of business starting off from a person being in employment and then eventually venturing out when you see the opportunities that opens up to you. You know, if you would carry on with that, then we'll start to view tax differently.
True.
You know, and I think the government has done great in trying to take it to schools so that children can actually view tax in a way that they are actually participating and taking ownership and being part of it.
In a good way, I
Yes.
should say.
And even if you look at the national budget, about 90 to 95% of national budget is funded by taxes. And if you look at the overall structure of the tax, our tax rates are quite low. And I think it's all about education, all about awareness. As my colleague has mentioned, in terms of the business community, we are also rolling out a new reform with a new system as well, which is called self-assessment. So now the freedom will be given to the business community to assess their own tax, own returns, and of course, and also to pay on the amount which they assess on their own. So, so the bigger picture here is tax is a good thing. It is there to support all of us, and I think it's something that we can always work towards to improve the tax system. I think tax system is something that can always be enhanced, modernized, and improved. And I think what we're doing at the present time with a new IT system, and I think that is a step in the right direction. It's simply going to make it easy for taxpaying community to in terms of their dealings with the taxpayer, with the tax office.
Yeah, because we really need to change the mindset of people. Like you said, normally when they go into businesses, they're getting big bucks, and then they start questioning that, paying that amount of money. Maybe, I mean, geez, you're helping the nation. That's for a start. Maybe you can tell them to think of it as charity. Maybe they might give it willingly then, if they're a type of person who likes to give to charity. Yeah, so anyway, so what is FRCS doing to stop tax evasion and getting people to pay taxes?
I think generally speaking, I think our focus is to ensure that we have what we call voluntary compliance. We are there to educate people. We are there to inform people of their obligations. Of course, if somebody who is deliberately, recklessly, knowingly is their mindset is not to pay tax, then again our tax laws provide sufficient penalties.
Okay.
We do have powers whereby we can prosecute them. We have our powers around departure provision order, garnishee order. It can be very strict as well. But I must say that generally a large segment of tax-paying population in Fiji are generally compliant.
Okay.
I think we have people out there who want to comply, but they need assistance. And that's where FRCS, as part of its voluntary compliance strategy, is going to ensure that we go in the field, we meet these taxpayers and help them out. Of course, we do have another segment of taxpayers who may be very small, but are there to generally in terms of tax planning. The view is that we also need to approach them differently, meaning that we need to do a very transparent audit of these taxpayers. We have to ensure that we do proper investigation and put all the facts on the table, and then after that we do audit assessments. So in summary, tax compliance is an important feature for FRCS. It's something that we want to always state in every forum that tax rates are low, incentives are many, and there's no room to play with the system.
Right.
We want to ensure that everybody is in the system. And if anyone who is caught playing with the system, then again we approach them appropriately. And those that are deliberate, those that are engaged in fraudulent activities, we approach them with hefty penalties. And of course, we can always prosecute those taxpayers as well.
Thank you. On Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. I hope you're enjoying the program, and we'll be back in a moment. Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Thank you for your good company. I hope you're enjoying this week's episode. This is a live radio talkback show. You can call, you can question 3220-906 or 7732-906. So we have from the Fiji Revenue and Customs Service, the Director Revenue Management, Fazrul Rahman, and the Chief Assessment, Lewai Karavaki. And it's really good, fantastic information. You're letting the people know about the launch of these 4 new online portals. That's starting from the 3rd of November. But thank you also, Rahman, for telling us about how you stop tax evasion. You know, there are hefty penalties. And just how many whistleblower cases has the FRCS recorded so far, approximately, including 2019?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, after 2019, since we have really gone into details of having this policy introduced, we have seen, I would say, more than 100 taxpayers have really come on board with information about businesses who are not tax compliant. There are a lot of inside information that has been brought to our attention. But I must say that on daily basis, we do receive cases. We do have taxpayers who might be complaining about somebody is not declaring their rental income. Or like, for example, somebody who's doing a small business on the side and is having a very good standard of living, for example.
Okay, so these are the signs
yes,
that they're not paying
exactly,
tax and they're just
exactly.
using all the money. Okay.
But generally speaking, in terms of the whistleblower cases that we have seen to be leading to revenue collection, we have got taxpayers in the retail sector, whereby we have discovered that there were supermarkets, there were shops that were in the retail sector, and there had been cases of tax evasion.
Okay.
So in summary, if we compute roughly how much taxes had been collected because of whistleblowers since 2016, it comes to around $200 million.
Ooh, that's a lot of money.
There's a lot of money. We do have, of course, a number of taxpayers that gave us a lot of revenue that were not declared. We do have one or two big taxpayers in the retail sector. But generally speaking, what we have done profile of the overall sector as well. And without receiving whistleblower information, those profiling has also helped us to get indirect revenues as well.
Okay.
So the point here is that whistleblower has been one of the good policies successful policies that we had. Generally, the signals that we receive from the people has been positive. People want to report, want to complain. What we also plead with the complainants is to provide as much information as possible.
Okay.
Because ultimately we rely on information.
Okay.
And if we're going to audit somebody, we're going to prosecute somebody because they were evading taxes, it all comes down to evidence. So for example,
Yes.
if somebody who has some credible information around a particular person not declaring their taxes, then that helps. But in summary, it's more than 100 taxpayers giving us close to $200 million in tax revenue.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Lewai?
Just to add on to that, like the director has mentioned, we've got whistleblowers that are coming in regards to rental. Just to be mindful and a note to be taken, we are not there to solve like personal problems. You know, sometimes you're being evicted for rent and then you just come and say, lodge a complaint with us. So when we look into it and then we decide on the merits of the case, whether it's worth pursuing or whether that landlord has actually been a compliant landlord. So we're being mindful of all the different kind of cases. Yes, we do collect these millions of dollars, but then we also get these trivial cases. But that's what it's all about. You know, being a service, and then we need to make sure, and the taxpayers need to know that when they bring the cases to us, it's actually been attended to, and we give them a report in regards to what have we done, and just to ensure that they're satisfied. Like it's been mentioned that we definitely rely on information and information from third parties. So on that, we try and make sure that all the people who turn up at our doors to lodge a complaint, whether it be small or big, that we attend to it. And that they know that it has been attended to, and we explain to them in detail, this is what has done and this is our findings. And on that note, whether we will pursue or not. But what happens after that is a tax office discretion. So it's just that, you know, as much as we enjoy having all of this, but then we also have to weed through them
I know.
to
I
see
can
the one
imagine.
that actually gives us the big dollars.
Okay, so there must be an enticing reward for whistleblowers?
Yes, certainly. If you look at the reward, generally it's based on the value that is being detected as the revenue that is being contributed by the whistleblower, because the whistleblower's information should help us to get extra revenue. So certainly we have done some rewards payout as well. Generally we have a whistleblower at the rate of around 10% on the value that has been audited and found and has been collected. Because ultimately whistleblower information should lead to collection of extra revenue. And again, as you know, the revenue collection has to go through its motion as well. We have to give the taxpayer the right to object. So if the taxpayer feels that no, the assessment is wrong, the whistleblower information was incorrect, we also have to give the taxpayer the right to object. And of course,
Okay.
once we exhaust all those processes and ultimately it leads to the collection of that extra dollar, then on that we do make a determination and we do make a reward payout as well.
Okay, so like you said, if a whistleblower does come to you, they have to have evidence. What kind of evidence do you look at?
Generally
Well,
speaking,
yeah.
exactly. I think it's a very good question, certainly. I think evidence, it could vary from the type of complaint they're raising. But generally, when you deal with FRCS, when you talk about tax, I think the financial information is very relevant.
Yeah.
Information on the income, invoices, receipts, payments, contracts, agreements, or any form of indirect information that is going to lead us into a direction whereby we could get the actual evidence. So certainly we're talking about if anybody is saying that somebody is having a very luxurious lifestyle and suspicion is that business is not with FRCS. So we'd like to know of their vehicle numbers, where is the property situated, which lot the property is on, so we can do our title search, LTA search, and of course we like to ensure information on the income of that person. As much as possible, if there's inside information on that person's bank account, how many properties are kept under which family's name, etc., etc. Because the tendency is that anybody who wants to hide tax will certainly put incomes in other people's names so that they're not caught, for example.
Okay, for example.
Yeah. So I think
that's just a loophole that they find.
Yes, in that example, then we require information on everybody as much as possible who's connected with the taxpayer. So it's
a lot
very
of work.
wide. Yeah.
A lot of work, I mean, yeah, I would say.
Yeah, remember, when you're defrauding the tax office, you are intentionally doing it, and you will be hiding your invoices. So, like it's been mentioned, financial invoices, that is important, because when we have that, then you cannot dispute it because we're producing it.
Okay.
But then when we don't have it and it's all on hearsay, we're acting on hearsay,
Yeah.
then it depends on another tool that we normally have, where we will have a raid, a surprise check.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that they don't have sufficient time to make sure that all these invoices or whatever disappear so that we cannot detect it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is important that sometimes you can do a raid and it produces nothing, it yields nothing.
Oh, waste your
the-
time.
Yeah, because the taxpayers actually had sufficient time to ensure that whatever is there is not available when we do come.
They hide
So
all
we
the
have
stuff,
to remember
eh?
that when somebody is defrauding, it's intentional.
Okay,
It's
so
not
they'll do
some-
everything in their power to cover their tracks.
Yeah, certainly. I think the idea is to ensure that there's no trail left. There's no evidence left.
Right.
If FRCS comes, there's nothing there, for example.
Yeah.
So if somebody who is really determined to not to pay tax, they'll go to the extent of hide information, transfer properties to whoever they are comfortable with. But certainly, as my colleague has mentioned, it's all about invoices, documents, and bank deposits, or anything around that is going to help FRCS. And certainly, we do receive a number of complaints, maybe because of some personal issues the person has with somebody else. The person wishes that the person is not in the tax system, so they come and report about that person to FRCS. But some of those things, we listen to everybody, but we profile cases. Ultimately, we look at evidence and facts, because we have to be fair to the person that we have to go and investigate as well.
Yes, that's true.
So-
And I hope it helps in, this information so that it makes your job easier, like how you have to weed through all the useless ones. But on Speak Your Mind, this is Gold FM, only the classic hits, the only classic hit station in the country. We'll be back soon. We're back on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits, and my guest in the studio from the Fiji Revenue and Customs Service, the Director Revenue Management, Fazrul Rahman, and the Chief Assessor Assessment, Lewe Karavaki. Now, it's really good, the information that you are sharing with us. Now, there's just something that I wanted to mention. One of the leading figures of early American history, Benjamin Franklin, existed in the 1700s. He was a statesman, author, publisher, scientist, inventor, and diplomat. Born into a Boston family of modest means, Franklin had little formal education. He went on to start a successful printing business in Philadelphia and grew wealthy. Well, he once said that the only things certain in life were death and taxes. Most people didn't consider that they may be closely linked. But problems with taxes can lead to the death of your small business unless you take steps to keep the taxman happy. What are some of the important general guidelines or advice you can give to keep the tax authorities happy?
I think that the general one would be to have a very good record keeping system. It's all about keeping all the information intact with the business, within the business. And I think if any difficulty the taxpayer is facing, they can reach out to FRCS. We got our hotline number 1326, and they can also email us info@frcs.org.fj. So it's all about communicating with tax office as well. Sometimes people might not communicate, and they're not aware of the laws that got amended along the way, and naturally they would be hit with penalties. So what we encourage, what we request the taxpaying community is that we are here to work with you. FRCS is towards partnership, and we want to ensure that we listen to you, and you'll be heard. Please reach out to us for any information that's going to help you to have a very good record-keeping system.
And it makes it easier on the business as well. I mean, you wouldn't want to be persecuted, would you? Not worth it.
Just to add on to that, we also have a small unit within the office that is called the MSME. That is actually looking after small businesses. If they want to file their tax returns, if they want to prepare their accounts, the office is available. These are services that are normally offered by the tax agents and charged, but we offer it for free. And also, on that note, we would also just encourage our taxpayers at large to ensure that all the information with us are correct, so that when we reach out to them, we're reaching out to the correct person.
Yeah, it's important to ensure that they're up to date with us. Their email address is up to date, their phone number is up to date, so that we can send them blast emails and all the information. And again, as my colleague has mentioned, the SME unit, the micro, small, and medium unit that we have set up in FRCS, that is one of the great avenue for people to come and reach to us and discuss any issues they have with us.
Well, that's it for the interview now, and I thank you so much for giving your time to come on Speak Your Mind today and explain, how the tax office runs and how you want people to react to your office as well. But just the 3rd of November, again, the Fiji Revenue Customs Service will be launching 4 new taxpayer online services portal.
Sure.
And I'm sure they can get more information on your website.
Definitely.
Okay, great. So thank you indeed again. From the Fiji Revenue and Customs Service, the Director of Revenue Management, Fazrul Rahman, and the Chief Assessor, Assessment, Lewai Karavaki, Vinakavaka Levo. On Speak Your Mind, thank you for your good company again on this week's episode. Until next week, Nisa Modemanda, look after yourself, and most importantly, look out for each other. Bye for now.